In a country where shopping's one of the most popular pastimes, spending here is taking on a more cultural twist. Neighbouring Dubai has had an art fair for several years now, and Abu Dhabi is fast catching up. And despite being a relative newcomer, it's managing to attract galleries from more established cities like London and Paris.
The quality of the fair is good. It's also a way to see the people from the region, and it's a week where we manage to have a few meetings and see the right person. And where also we think for our artists it's very important to be present here in this part of the region.
Organisers here at Abu Dhabi say visitor numbers are up 25% from last year. Experts are excited about the region's potential, but there's still much more to be done. This art fair is just one small piece in Abu Dhabi's artistic jigsaw. It fits together with its much more ambitious plans of building its very own Guggenheim and Louvre and trying to make it the cultural hub of the Middle East. And this is the ultimate aim, a cultural island that will comprise several museums as well as hotels and residential developments. It didn't come cheap though. It's understood that Abu Dhabi paid more than $500 million to use the Louvre brand name for 30 years. The original plan was to open the museums from next year, but the project had been hit by delays. Hotels have opened, as have the residential units, but people will now have to wait till 2015 to see the Louvre open, and even later for the other museums on the island. The government-owned developer, Tourism Development and Investment Company wasn't available to give an interview for this report, but it did give us their most recent images of the Louvre site from 2 years ago. As you can see, there's still a long way to go. But Abu Dhabi wants to show people it still means business. It started acquiring works from major artists like Klee, Manet and Gauguin, ready to go into the Louvre when it opens. And it was standing room only for a talk by the museum's architects, the Louvre's Jean Nouvel, Frank Gehry of the Guggenheim, and Sir Norman Foster, who's designing a third museum. They may not be built, but the drive to convince people the museums are still happening is very much there.
If they look at the West, they see these systems that have been going for decades, millennia almost. So obviously it's difficult to kickstart something like this very quickly, even if you've got a major amount of money. You need art schools, you need universities that teach curators, conservators. So it obviously can't be done very quickly. But they do have the money, they do seem to have the will, and they are buying art, a great deal of art, even though it's very expensive.
While the museum projects are still in their infancy, this cultural push is having a trickle-down effect. Art fairs like this aren't just attracting international names, they're encouraging people from the Gulf to look at art in a new light too.
We see private individuals who are fascinated in the art world, who've never touched art before and who are thinking, do you know what, I would quite like to have my own little private museum in my house. And the money here is, I mean, the number of billionaires and very wealthy multimillionaires in the region is enormous. I go to Saudi Arabia and just 1 or 2 clients coming into the market, they're allocating 5, 10, 15 million, and we have one client who's allocating between 60 and 100 million to buying art for themselves. And what the building up of these museums is impacting on everybody else who thinks, you know what, that's really interesting. I'd like to own art. I can start to appreciate the art, and the whole mentality here is changing.
While it'll take a few more years to get up to speed with the likes of Europe and the US, one thing is clear. The Gulf may not have much of an artistic history, but it's using its money to buy its art for the future.